All right, everybody. Good morning. This is Graham Sisson. I'm the chair of the Special Education Advisory Panel. I wanted to welcome everybody this morning. This time, I'd like Ashley Cawley to give us an overview of the virtual meeting guidance for panel attendees.
Good morning. This is Ashley Cawley. I am the state liaison for the Special Education Advisory Panel. For the members who are in attendance with us on our virtual meeting today, our panel members and some staff from Special Education Services. This is just a reminder. I appreciate everyone logging in and being on time this morning. We are going to ask that you keep your cameras off throughout the meeting. Keep your mic muted when not talking. You will have the opportunity to raise your hand or place a comment in the chat. Dr. Melissa Card is assisting by facilitating that chat this morning. And so she will let me know if we have someone that needs to, that's raised their hand or has a question. Use the chat box to record your comments. We will be able to see those or your questions. And just make sure, panel members, that you are fully present in the meeting. As you know, we have different voting opportunities throughout the meeting that we will need to record your vote. So just make sure that you're doing that. All right. Other than that, I believe that we are ready to start the meeting, Graham.
Great. I'm going to do a roll call now, and I'm going to read these names very slowly for purposes of the interpretation. But if you could just give a voice indication that you're here. Lisa Ballas. Okay. I think I heard something. Volante Blackman.
And Graham, they may raise their hand in the chat. That's probably the easiest way. That's what they're used to doing. So that's fine. If and I've got somebody recording those. So I guess just take that little break between each name, and we'll get them recorded. I think you're good.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. Cornelia Brown. Cameron Carden. Rebecca Carroll. Felicia Carswell. Tara Cook. Allie Cunningham. Kristen Dial. Leanna Feely. Tasha Harrison Betts. Jonquil Horton. Jane Lamb. Evandra Jackson.
I'm here.
Thank you. Jean Marzullo. Karen Mayo. Karen McGelvey.
Here.
Ashley McElroy. Tiffany Moore.
Here.
Jessica Pelt,
Here.
and Hank Poor. Kathy Poor, Lisa Powell, Christy Rubin, LaDonna Rudolph, Kate Simmons, of course, I'm here, Graham Sisson, Shanna Smith, Elisa Spivey, Katie Stewart, Shanika Weatherly. All right, that's the roll call. I want to briefly introduce our new members. They were in the roll call course, but Allie Cunningham, she is our new charter school stakeholder representative. Rebecca Carroll, who is the private school stakeholder representative. And Katie Stewart is our AEA representative. All right, the next thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. These were sent out, and I'd like a motion to approve those minutes from the October 19th, 2023 meeting. Looks like LaDonna Rudolph has moved to approve, and Dr. Kate Simmons has seconded. Do we have any discussion or changes to the minutes? If there's none, I'm going to call the vote or call the question. All those in favor, please state yes in the chat or do a hand signal in the chat. It looks like the minutes are passed, but does anybody have any abstention or opposition? All right, thank you. The minutes have passed. And now we have a brief overview of the advisory panel purpose and duties. Basically, the purpose of the panel is stated in federal law. Is to advise the state education agency on issues related to special education and promote communication and cooperation among individuals involved with children and youth with disabilities. That's the purpose, but the duties of the advisory panel, as stated in the regulations for the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, one is to advise the the state education agency of unmet needs within the state in the education of children and youth with disabilities. Also, to comment publicly on any rules or regulations proposed by the state regarding the education of children with disabilities. Next is to advise the state education agency in developing evaluations and reporting on data to the secretary under section 618. Next one is to advise the state education agency in developing correction action plans to address findings identified in federal monitoring report. Next is to advise the state education agency in developing and implementing policies relating to the coordination of services for children with disabilities. And lastly, it's a waiver of non-supplant requirements. State must consult with the advisory panel regarding provisions of free appropriate public education. So we like to state those before each meeting to remind our panel members what our functions are. I think that helps in when we give craft input for the state education agency. So the next thing on the agenda is public comment. Dr. Ashley Cawley will read these to us.
Graham, thank you. Thank you. Good morning. We have received at the Alabama State Department of Education, Special Education Services, we have received 3 public comments that I'll read aloud today. All 3 of them are quite long, so bear with me. I also want to state that there may be information in the public comments that we don't share out, whether it's the name of an LEA, the name of a child or teacher, anything of that nature. If that's the case, I will state redacted, just so you know what that means, that it's something in there that I'm not, able to share publicly. Okay, I will start with the first comment. SEAP. I have been speaking with Joss Laney from AOA, which is the Alabama Office of Apprenticeship, about moving our special education program online. According to him, the delay is that there is an Alabama State Department of Education requirement that says that anyone seeking any type of temporary certification in special education must already possess a bachelor's degree in any area. I searched, but I could not find this in code anywhere. Of course, I may not have been looking at the correct section. If this is true, this limits our ability to meet our partner schools where their most significant gap lies, special education. A survey of Region 6 Alabama schools revealed that special education teachers were by far the biggest gap in teacher shortage. Of the 69 schools that responded, 61 of them identified special education as their area of greatest need. While the TSEC, and I'll add what TSEC means, is Temporary Special Education Certificate. While the TSEC approach has helped, it is only beneficial to high schools in our state. Redacted University stands ready to put our special education program into year 1 pilot. I am confident that the integrity of our collaborative special education K-12 dual certification program would not be compromised in the apprenticeship model. Our 9 to 12 hours of science of reading methods courses would not be compromised either, as we ensure these courses are treated with the utmost importance. The apprenticeship model would allow school employees who have already passed background checks and who are already working in many of our special education classrooms to pursue this degree while continuing to experience on-the-job learning from teachers in the field. I believe this would be an excellent opportunity for our schools as well as our state to move forward. I appreciate your time in reading my plea. If you would like to speak with me, please do not hesitate to reach out. Okay, that is the first public comment received.
And we're going to switch interpreters real quick.
Thank you, Cindy. I was just fixing to check. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Members of the public that are attending, we are going to switch our interpreters, so give us just a minute to make that transition. Okay, Sydney, we are ready. The next public comment. Thank you for providing us the opportunity to share our ideas, comments, and concerns about special education in the state of Alabama. I would like to start off by saying that special education in Alabama has great potential of leading the nation in service delivery, trained professional personnel, and available resources and supports. In order for our state to lead the nation with quality special education services, several things need to be addressed. The children receiving special education have specific needs which require special individuals to work with them. They deserve quality care, well-trained staff, and consistency. Currently, there is a high turnover rate with instructional support aides and behavioral aides. Several districts in the state use Kelly Services and SPUR to staff the special education classrooms. The problem with this is that they are not committed. They are not paid when school is out for the summer and during other breaks. This causes them to leave the job after working a short period of time. Districts should hire their own instructional support aides and behavioral aides to ensure stability and consistency in the classrooms. However, there is another problem with turnover, even among board-hired aides, due to the pay. Their salaries are significantly lower compared to other available jobs. In most districts, an aide has to work 30 years just to reach a salary close to $30,000. To be honest, they can go to Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Target, and other companies and make that and more. I was under the impression that a law was recently put in place that requires districts to pay support personnel at least $15 an hour. That is not happening in some districts. Maybe they are considering benefits as part of the $15 salary requirement. Well, that does not help the aides and other staff meet the basic needs of their families. They really need money also. Another issue about utilizing Kelly Services and SPUR workers is that they are not trained to work with children with special needs. There seems to be very little priority paid to ensuring the aides are well trained and skilled. By hiring individuals that have a bachelor's degree in social service field, psychology, social workers, etc., will ensure that educated and trained people are working with our children. Also, there needs to be more men recruited for the position of behavioral aide. Over the years, the students have become more aggressive, which can be a challenge to some female workers. Once again, the problem regarding salary prevents men from applying for the job. Most men are the head of their households and need an appropriate salary to provide for their families. By making some of these changes, I believe we would be better equipped to serve our special children. Thank you for hearing the feedback. That is the end of the second public comment. I'm starting the third public comment. Let me start by saying it should be alarming at the number of parents, especially special education parents, that are choosing or feel they are being forced to homeschool their children due to the lack of support in schools. Both of my children received special education services from an Alabama public school from the age of 3 through early intervention until May of 2023. 6 years total. During this time, we saw the lack of funding available for staff training, and basic sensory room equipment and supplies. We saw a lack of funding available for life skill programs to be at multiple locations. Instead, children have to be transported to the closest school that provides the program. We ultimately were forced to choose homeschool because there were not enough staff available to give my children the help they needed to learn. My children were given the bare minimum assistance and pushed through to the next grade. I look forward to seeing what changes will be made for our special education programs. For more detailed information, please continue. Excuse my lengthy comment, but the details are important in understanding the severity of the issues we faced while enrolled in an Alabama school. Also, let me say, this is not just an issue in Alabama. This is the same situation for multiple states. We even looked into moving out of state, but the issues were the same. The schools are so understaffed in our area that the school was not only able to provide one aide to a small group of 5 to 7 kids. These aides also do not receive any type of special training to work with special education. My son did not receive the help he needed, and because time is so limited, they wrote all his answers in highlighter and he just traced the answers. That is not teaching him anything. The school also sent home 8 blank report cards over a 2-year period for my daughter. The teachers could not even list 3 positive things on her report card. They refused to give her credit for things she could not do, but since she didn't do it during the testing period, her report card was left blank. During our IEP meeting, the staff handed me the packet detailing why my daughter needed the life skills program, handed me a pen, and for 1.5 hours, the school staff bullied me, telling me my child would not be successful in a typical classroom, and the details of how she would fail. Listed everything she could not do and criticized every aspect of my daughter. I have not heard so much negativity about my child. Never once did they say anything positive about my child or any of her many accomplishments, nor did they provide me with any information on how she would be successful in the program. They wanted to put her program because she would require a one-on-one aide to be in the classroom. That is a direct quote from a staff member. They also did not offer for me to meet the teacher, see the classroom, observe the classroom, or give me an idea of how her day would go. When I asked questions about the program, their reply was, "We will have to find out." They wanted me to put her in a program they themselves knew nothing about. They indicated she would see her typical classmates during electives, lunch, and recess. They wanted me to put my daughter at one location, a new school 20 minutes from her current school, for their life skills class. Being made to switch schools would have been detrimental to my daughter as she does not process change well at all. The life skills class consisted of 12 to 20 classmates ranging from kindergarten to 6th grade with a lead teacher and 2 aides. I did not feel comfortable putting my nonverbal child 7-year-old in a classroom with 11 to 12-year-old sixth grade students. If I chose to go this route, I would have to drop my son at his school as soon as the doors opened, rush 20 minutes to get my daughter to school on time, then pick my son up from school and let my nonverbal child ride a special education bus with an aide home. Once she reached 7th grade, she would transfer to whatever campus the program was at the time. After several months of research and seeing what was available in our area, we decided our only and best option was to homeschool. Which again, the school staff tried very hard to talk me out of making this decision. I have 7 years of experience in a special education classroom. My mother is a certified teacher, and I have plenty of teachers to reach out to if needed. I hate that schools are so under budgeted. They do not have the funds available to hire and train more staff. They do not have the funds for a proper sensory room, toys, or equipment. They do not have funds available to provide assistive communication devices for those in need. Texas could provide this. Let me finish by saying we truly miss our teachers and friends. We did have the nicest, most understanding teachers and staff. Their hands were tied on options because of funding and space available. Our principal told me he wished they had the funding to put the life skills class at their school so kids could get more one-on-one attention and be more successful. When I approached the director of our program about starting a new location, she was extremely rude and hateful about why that would never happen, and no changes were being made anytime, despite our principal's willing and readiness to revive the program at our home campus. Thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing what changes will be made to help our special education programs flourish and successful. That is the end of the public comments. All of these public comments will be taken into consideration by the Alabama State Department of Education and Special Education Services. Graham?
I got to unmute myself. Thank you for that, Dr. Cawley. I appreciate that. That was a lot of really good comments, and I look forward to seeing how we're going to respond to those. Next thing on the agenda is the Special Education Services Data Team presentation. We have the data administrator, Dr. Kamichi Green, and the data specialist, Dr. Melissa Card, and their topic is going to be the state performance plan and the annual performance report draft. So I will turn it over to them. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is Kamichi Green. I am the Data and Dispute Team Administrator. And today I will provide an overview of the FFY 2022, which is school year 2022-2023, State Performance Plan, Annual Performance Report, Data and Results. Okay. States are required to report on the performance of 17 indicators and its plan to make progress in the SPP APR. Indicators are either a results indicator or a compliance indicator. Results indicators have targets set by the state with input from stakeholders such as the SEAP panel. Compliance indicators have targets of 0% or 100% set by the Office of Special Education Programs at the U.S. Department of Education. In reporting progress, states are required to provide reasons for indicators demonstrating slippage. Slippage is defined as the worsening of the previous year's data and not meeting the target. So as shown, Alabama did meet the target in multiple indicators. Indicators 1, 2, 4, 5C, which is an aspect of school age LRE. Indicator 6A, which is an aspect of preschool LRE. 6C, 7B2, 7C2, which are measurements of preschool outcomes. Indicator 14, post-school outcomes, and indicator 17, the state systemic improvement plan. So we did meet the targets for those indicators. However, we did not meet the target for other indicators, but we did not demonstrate slippage. Again, the data did not worsen from the previous year, even though we did not meet the target. Those indicators are indicator 3A, participation, 3B, proficiency against grade level academic achievement standards, indicator 8, parent involvement, indicators 9 and 10, disproportionate representation, indicator 11, child find, indicator 12, early childhood transition, indicator 13, secondary transition, and indicators 15 and 16, resolution sessions and mediations. We did demonstrate slippage for indicator 3C, proficiency, and this is measuring the alternate academic achievement standards. Indicator 3D, grade level academic achievement standards, is the gap, sorry. Indicator 5A, school age LRE. Indicator 5B, school age LRE. Indicator 6B, which is an aspect of preschool LREs, a separate class, school, or residential facility. And indicator 7A1, 7A2, 7B1, and 7C1. And these are all measurement statements in preschool outcomes. When comparing last year's overall data to this year's overall data, we did show improvement. So I am happy to report that. So let's start with the last column here. Last year, we had,
Excuse me, I'm sorry, we need to switch interpreters real quick. Thank you. We're ready.
last year and this year, unfortunately, we had slippage in 3C and 3D assessment and the gap. And we continue to show it, unfortunately, this year as well. Last year, we had slippage in 5B, and we continue to show it this year as well. Indicators 9 and 10, we moved from slippage to actually no slippage. We did not meet the target, but we did show an improvement. And the same for 14B and 14C. We actually moved to no slippage, and we actually met the target. Indicators 15 and 16, although we did not meet the target this year, we did not have a worsening from the previous year. And also indicator 17, we actually met the target this year. So we are happy to report that. So now let's look at the data for each indicator. For indicator 1, graduation, we did meet the target. Indicator 2, dropout, is percent of youth with IEPs dropping out of high school. We did meet the target in that area. Indicator 3A, we did meet the target reading grade 4 and 8. We did not meet the target in high school, but as shown, we did show improvement from last year. In math, we met the targets for 4th grade and 8th grade. But again, we did not meet the target in high school, but did show improvement from last year. And this is the participation rate for children with IEPs on statewide assessments. Indicator 3B is the proficiency rate for children with IEPs against grade level academic achievement standards. We did not meet the target in grade 4. And although we did have a slight decrease, it's not worthy of slippage. The slippage is not greater than 1 percentage point. We did meet the target in 8th grade and high school. In math, we met the target in each area, 4th grade, 8th grade, and high school. Indicator 3C is proficiency for children with IEPs against grade level and alternate academic achievement standards. We did meet the target in all areas of reading, grade 4, grade 8, and high school. However, we did not meet the target and demonstrated slippage in grade 4. In grade 8, we did not meet the target, but we did show improvement compared to the previous year. In grade high school, we demonstrated slippage. Indicator 3D is the gap in proficiency for children with IEPs and all students against grade level academic achievement standards. We did not meet the target and demonstrated slippage in all areas of reading. We did not meet the target in all areas of math. However, high school, we did show an improvement. The state acknowledges the slippage and the regression in proficiency. As a result, the state has established an improvement plan that includes the addition of several new sections of the department to work with existing initiatives such as school improvement, the AMSTI, and the ARI programs to support all students, including those with IEPs. The state will continue to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the state initiatives, and we hope to see improvements in reading and math for all students, including those with IEPs. Additionally, the Special Education Services section has operated a state personnel development grant, which we call the SPDIG, since approximately year 2000. In 2022, a new SPDIG was awarded to Alabama. The new SPDIG focuses on providing evidence-based professional development in reading as applied in a multi-tiered system of supports in Alabama MTSS schools, improving the reading achievement of students in grades 4 through 8, and expanding transition services for toddlers in elementary, middle, and high school students. For Goal 1, the SPDIG will partner with Alabama's MTSS section to provide training, coaching, and support for educators around the application of reading in an MTSS framework. For Goal 2, the SPDIG will offer professional learning to improve transitions from each educational level. So moving on to indicator 4, this is the percent of districts that have a significant discrepancy in the rate of suspensions and expulsions of greater than 10 days in a school year for children with IEPs. The state met the target. Indicator 4B, suspensions and expulsion. This is the compliance part of indicator 4, and we did meet the target. Indicator 5 is school age LRE. It has 3 measurement statements. For indicator 5A, inside the regular class, 80% or more of the day, we did not meet the target and we demonstrated slippage. The same can be said for indicator 5B. This is inside the regular class, less than 40% of the day. We did not meet the target and we demonstrated slippage. In separate schools, indicator 5C, residential facilities or homebound hospital placements, although we did not meet the target, we did not decrease. Indicator 6 is preschool LRE. It also has 3 measurements. We met the target for 6A. This is in children inside the, attending regular early childhood programs and receiving the majority of their services in a regular early childhood program. We met the target for 5A. We did not meet the target for 5B. This is separate special education class, a separate school, or a residential facility. However, we did meet the target for receiving special education and related services in the home. Indicator 7 is also a 3-part indicator. And within each part or measurement, there are 2 separate statements that we also have to report progress. So let's look at 7A. This is the percent of preschool children aged 3 through 5 with IEPs who demonstrate improved positive social emotional skills. So for indicator 7A1, the rate of growth, we did not meet the target and demonstrated slippage for the rate of growth, and with A2 functioning within age expectations. We saw decreases in both areas. 7B is percent of preschool children aged 3 through 5 with IEPs who demonstrated improved acquisition and use of knowledge and skills. The rate of growth, we did not meet the target, and we also demonstrated slippage. But for B2, functioning within age expectations by the time they exited the program, we did meet the target. For 7C, this is students who demonstrate improved use of appropriate behaviors to meet their needs. For 7C1, the rate of growth, we demonstrated slippage, so we saw a decrease in that area. But 7C2, functioning within age expectations, we did meet the target. Indicator 8 is parent involvement. It's percent of parents with a child receiving special education services who report that schools facilitated parent involvement as a means of improving services and results for children with disabilities. Although we did not meet our target, we did show an increase from the previous year. And also we saw an increase in our response rate. So more parents completed the survey. So we are happy about that. Indicators 9 and 10 they measure disproportionate representation. That is a result of inappropriate identification. We did not meet the target. Again, this is a compliance indicator set by the U.S. Department of Education. They expect 0%. Unfortunately, we reported 2.76%, but it is a decrease from the previous year. Same with indicator 10. The U.S. Department of Education set the target at 0%. We reported 3.42%, but it is a decrease from the previous year. Indicator 11 is our child find indicator. It's the percent of children who were evaluated within 60 days of receiving parental consent for initial evaluation. We had a slight decrease, but it still it's very high. It's a high level of compliance. And again, this is a target set by the U.S. Department of Education. They expect 100%. We were slightly below that, but again, a high level of compliance. The same with indicator 12 is the percent of children referred by Part C prior to age 3 who are found eligible for Part B and to have an IEP developed and implemented by their 3rd birthdays. Compliance indicator, the target is 100%. It's a slight decrease, well, not a slight decrease, excuse me, a slight increase from the previous year. We did not meet the target, but still it's a high level of compliance. Okay, indicator 13 is our secondary transition measurements. And again, 100% is expected. We were slightly below that, but we did decrease slightly in that area, but again, a high level of compliance. Indicator 14 is our post-school outcomes, and it measures the percent of youth who are no longer in secondary school, had IEPs in effect at the time they left school, and were A, enrolled in higher education within 1 year of leaving high school. We met the target in that area. We met the target in all areas. Enrolled in higher ed or competitively employed within 1 year of leaving high school. Or C, enrolled in higher ed or in some other post-secondary education or training program, or competitively employed or in some other employment within 1 year of leaving high school. We met the target in each area. Indicator 15 is our resolution sessions indicator. It measures the percent of hearing requests that went to resolution sessions that were resolved through resolution session settlement agreements. We did not meet the target, but we did show a slight increase from the previous year. And finally, indicator 16, mediation, is the percent of mediations held that resulted in mediation agreements. The target was 86.05%. We did not meet the target, and we showed a slight decrease, but it wasn't greater than 1%. Therefore, we did not demonstrate slippage in that area. Okay, so if there are any comments or questions about the state performance plan or the annual performance report or any data element that we reviewed this morning, please contact myself, Kamichi Green, or Dr. Melissa Card. We are the data team, and we welcome any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Dr. Card, are there any comments or questions in the chat?
There are no comments in the chat at this time.
Okay, thank you.
This is Graham, assistant again. Thank you for that presentation, all that information. Glad we showed some improvement in a lot of areas. And next thing on our agenda is the Special Education Services Dispute Resolution Team presentation. From the team, Elizabeth Herndon and Bernice Rush Harrison, and the topic is procedural safeguards. So I will turn it over to them. Thank you.
Bernice or Beth, I don't know which one of you is presenting, but we are unable to hear you. There's it's very muffled. I don't know if you're using a headset, but we'll give you just a minute to try to see what you can do to fix that. But we cannot hear you. All we hear is like a muffled sound through the headset.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay, I do apologize. I am Bernice Rush Harrison, along with Elizabeth Herndon. We are the dispute resolution team. This morning, we're going to review with you some changes to the special education rights document. But I must say that the rights itself has not changed, only the document. The document is parent-friendly and easy to follow along. Special education rights, the cover page. The right document is independently separate from the acknowledgement form, and it is not housed in PowerSchool. The title of this document is Alabama Procedure Safeguard Special Education Rights. The reason for the title is for all to know and identify that procedure safeguard and special education rights are one and the same. Compared to the older version, this document has a colorful cover page with a silhouette picture of the state of Alabama on it. And it also has an ALSDE and SES logo. The rice is now 28 pages and they are very colorful. The table of contents. The table of content, it lists all the required IDEA regulations for the procedure safeguard. This helps cut down on your time when you want to go to a direct topic. Also, the topics, they are color-coded. For example, as a parent, if I want to know where to find the discussion on parental consent, using the table of content, I would see that parental consent is found on page 3. Let's go to page 3. As I stated, parental consent is color-coded, it's green. So anything dealing with parental consent is going to be in the color green. Each of the major section of the procedure safeguards are formulated by a color code. As I stated, as you can see, parental consent, all of its content is green. And when we see a new color, it introduces a new topic. Like in this case, blue for independent education evaluation. If you receive an electronic version of this document or visit our website, there are hyperlinks in the document. On page 8, under the heading of filing a state complaint, when you click on the hyperlink dispute written state complaint, you will be given directly to the model form for this process. There is also a hyperlink to our website and direct steps to the location of this topic. The procedure safeguards are provided in the translated language listed, and it can be found on the Alabama Achieve website.
We're going to switch interpreters real quick.
Okay, thank you.
Ready? All right, so
We're
now
ready.
we're going to review the Special Education Rights Acknowledgement Form. You can see the old form on the left and the new form on the right. The old acknowledgement was just the small box at the top of the rights. We now have made it a separate form. So like Bernice said, this is the only form in Power School. The actual rights are on the Alabama Achieves website. The purpose of the Special Education Rights Acknowledgement Form is for the LEA to document that the procedural safeguards were given to the parent. And because the rights should be given at certain times to the parents, that's annually at an initial referral or parent request for evaluation, disciplinary action resulting in a change of placement, parent request, first state complaint filed, or first request for due process hearing. We ask the LEAs to provide the parent a copy of the acknowledgement form. One change from the old form is that fields were added to document contact information in the event that the parent needs to contact their child's school. And as on the old form, the parents do not have to sign the form. The form is to document that the procedural safeguards were given to the parent. LEAs have the option to share the procedural safeguards electronically if the parent agrees to receive them electronically. So if they do, we have provided 3 different ways to access the rights at the bottom. You can click on the highlighted link, and then we've provided the pathway on the Alabama Achieves website and the QR code. So that is the new acknowledgement form. We've listed our contact information. If you have questions, please contact us. Dr. Chambers, our program director, Dr. Kamichi Green, our administrator, and then my email and Bernice's email. And that is our summary of the updated special education rights.
Thank you. Dr. Carter, are there any comments or questions in the chat regarding procedural safeguards?
All right, if there's no comments then, or in the chat or otherwise, then we're going to proceed to the next topic on our agenda, and that is the Special Education Services Fiscal Team Presentation. And we have the Fiscal Administrator, Erica Richburg, and her topic is Stakeholder Input for Part B Application. So I will turn it over to you, Ms. Richburg.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Erica Richburg, again, Fiscal Administrator for Special Education Services Section. I am here to follow up with the stakeholder input for the IDEA Part B Federal Funding Budget for Special Education. This was presented during the October 19th, 2023 SEAP meeting. The Alabama State Department of Education Special Education Services Section staff will be completing the federal funding IDEA Part B budget for the Alabama fiscal year 2025. And this is the 2024-2025 school year. So this is for the next school year. Our section will be using the feedback to assist with addressing concerns and to ensure the community voice is represented in our funding for special education services in Alabama. Currently, we have noted the following stakeholder concerns that were received and expressed in the public comments 2 and 3 during today's meeting. Those are the need for funding to support the increase in salaries and professional development training for special education aides and paraprofessionals. There is also noted a need for funding to support assistive technology. There is also noted a need to increase the support of funding for sensory classrooms. At this time, the stakeholder feedback comment will remain open for submission until February 29th. At that time, the comment will close. We will go into session and complete our budget within the first few weeks of March. Once the budget is completed, we will post the budget for public comment by March 22nd. And that concludes my portion of the feedback or stakeholder support. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to us or express them now.
Thank you, Erica. This is Ashley Colley again, the state liaison for SEAP. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me. I will get those to Erica and her team if needed. I do not see any additional comments or questions in the chat. I'll leave that open for just a few more seconds to see if there's anybody that's has anything.
Thank you again. We appreciate the feedback that we've received so far.
Thank you, Erica. I am going to make one change to our agenda just because it's we've been sitting for about a little over an hour. Instead of doing the break after Dr. Chambers presents, I would like to go ahead and give everyone a 10-minute break. So if everyone can come back at, we'll just say 10:16, we will resume our meeting. Thank you. Okay, we're getting ready to start the meeting back. Give me just a minute to set our interpreter as the spotlight.
Ashley, this is Melissa. You had one comment from Ashley McElroy about consulting with them on one of the presentations.
Thank you, and thank you, Ashley. I made note of that.
All right, are we almost
Hold on,
ready?
Graham. Graham, give me just a minute. I've got to set the interpreter. Sorry. Okay,
All right, we ready now?
yes.
We will get started with Dr. Delete Chambers' report as the Director of Special Education Services.
Hey, give me 1 second to try and get my view. I can't see the PowerPoint. Hold on. Okay. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to provide a director's report to you today, to the panel members and to anyone watching from the public through the live stream. These are the things I'm going to cover. I'm going to start with an introduction, and then I'm going to give you highlights from each of the special education services teams. This is the first meeting of 2024, so welcome to a new calendar year to all of you. Sorry, I think I got my view back. Okay, so as an introduction, at the previous meetings, I gave what I would consider information to you on hot topics or whatever the trending things for the quarter were. Today is going to be different, where I'm going to give you more topics, more information. I looked it up. I knew there was some saying about a 10,000 foot view, a 30,000 foot view. So I looked it up, and a 30,000 foot view is like more of a broad view to cover more things versus a deep dive. And so what I'm going to do is give you the broad view of a lot of the important, exciting, special things that the section has done over the past year, so that you have an idea of those things. And then down the road, if you were to want further, deeper information on that, then you would just need to request a deep dive on those things. And then the teams or the staff individuals who manage those projects would come and do a presentation, very similar to how Dr. Green and Dr. Card prepared the SPP APR presentation for you, how the dispute resolution team presented on the special education rights. That would be considered a deep dive. And so what I'm going to do is give you the broad overview and tell you the topics, the special things we're doing, so that you'll know of them. And then later you can ask for more information if you would like. So starting with the integrated monitoring team. The integrated monitoring team has spent the past year working to fine-tune our comprehensive monitoring processes. We are required under our general supervision obligation to monitor districts. The federal government requires certain types of monitoring, certain things to be included in monitoring. And so we've been working with a consulting group we've been working with a couple of free technical assistance centers, but also with a consulting group with WestEd to help us make sure that we've considered everything, that we're covering all the bases, and that we have things in place as we should. As a result of that, the monitoring is being couched or based around Tier 1 universal, Tier 2 targeted, Tier 3 intensive. Tier 1 universal is what everybody gets every year. Tier 2 targeted is our cyclical schedule, a 5-year schedule where there's a limited number of districts who get specific targeted monitoring. And then intensive is where if we are aware of or notified of systemic issues in a district, then we would deem that as tier 3 intensive. And then we would employ all the different tiers for anybody in tier 3 intensive. We also have are developing processes and policies around focused monitoring. Focused monitoring is where you would find things like credible allegations, or instead of a systemic issue, it might be an issue in one certain area instead of like broad areas of problems in the district. And so focused monitoring is something that we're making sure we have in place, because there oftentimes are things that don't fit into the regular monitoring schedule but need to be addressed nonetheless. Another part or another project that the integrated monitoring team is currently handling is our school improvement efforts. We work with the Office of School Improvement on our school improvement efforts for our schools that are designated for CSI, TSI, and ATSI. And if they are designated for one of these categories based on the subpopulation of special education, then they're students with disabilities, then we work with the Office of School Improvement to offer layers of support depending on what the designation is. We currently have a project going on with inclusive practices with the CSI, with the Comprehensive Support and Improvement Schools that were identified for special education and their outcomes for students with disabilities. So in the CSI schools right now, we're working on inclusive practices to make sure that the educators understand evidence-based practices for inclusion and for making sure that students with disabilities have the instruction and the opportunities they need. So shifting to the fiscal management team. The fiscal management team has spent the past year also working with another with some free TA centers, and then also with the fiscal experts at WestEd to build the capacity of SES staff and LEA staff. And in doing this, they've been working on presentations and getting together information to make sure everybody knows what the rules are, what the expectations are, what the practices are for fiscal, and the way in which monies are spent and overseen. In doing this, it's an effort to plan for the future so that we have an infrastructure for future training that we can build on and make sure that everybody knows, like I said, the rules, the state and federal rules for fiscal, but then also making sure that over time, then we have the pieces in place to help make sure that any new people who come on have the materials available to be able to have the information. This includes having guides and manuals that will be available soon. Also, they are developing some specific pieces to sub-recipient monitoring. That's the monitoring of the districts for the IDA funds that they receive and the expenditures, the spending of those funds. Erica spoke with you about stakeholder input for the Part B application. That is an important piece of, there are funds that flow through the State Department. They go straight to the district, and the districts determine how to spend those on special education and related services for children with disabilities. But then also there's a certain amount of discretionary funds that come through the State Department. And so we need input. We use data and we use trends and we use information to determine where the funds should be best spent, but we also need stakeholder input on whether or not those things seem accurate, on target, and that whether or not the money is being put behind the things it needs to be put behind. Alabama, our state, is very generous in state funds, state supplemental funds for children with disabilities to support the efforts and the things we do for children with disabilities. I think one of the meetings, I can't remember which of the meetings, I gave you specific information on what those different funds were and how much money was in each fund. There's money to support behaviors, BCBAs, behavior certified people to help work with children who have autism and other disabilities that cause behavior issues. We also have money to support school districts hiring interpreters or teachers of the deaf. There's also state funds, state supplemental funds set aside to be able to support the costs of children who need residential placement, residential facility treatment in a residential facility, and then also funds set aside to be able to help in catastrophic situations where if a certain number, if more paraeducators need to be hired than what the regular special ed funds can hire, you know, let's just say they have an extreme number of kids who have more complex needs, then there's funds available for that. Now, the way you come into play for that is that making sure that you are communicating with the legislators how important those funds are, how appreciated those funds are, and then also staying in tune to whether or not there needs to be, you know, more funds devoted or dedicated to a certain area. So shifting to the technical assistance team. The technical assistance team has they've pulled together over the past year or two several different avenues or platforms for getting information out that help people know how to do things within special ed, help know the practices for the paperwork, help know the rules and the laws for the services that are occurring. And so there's a YouTube channel. They've been putting the pieces in place so that there's help documents and got one-pagers and PowerPoints so that districts can help themselves. And what I mean by that is that with the number of staff that we have, then there's limited opportunity for them to, when a request comes in, there's limited opportunity for them to be able to drop everything and, you know, send 2 or 3 people to districts. Given the number of districts, there's 170 something districts in the state of Alabama. So we want to make sure that the pieces are available so that when somebody calls in and says, hey, we have a problem, we need to know what to do with, you know, knowing how to write IEPs for preschool, then we can say, hey, we have this, this, and this available. And then that allows them to access the information easily, and then allows us to go out and do regional training, allows us to go on site when necessary, but also to have the pieces in place so that we can help people help themselves. We've also been, we also are working on analyzing the data and the trends to know what technical assistance is needed. And the types of data include parent phone calls, the complaints we receive, the LEA requests that come in, the outcomes that Dr. Green went over as far as what's going on in our state and how our students are performing. And so all of this information goes into determining and deciding where the efforts need to be related to technical assistance. This is an example of some of the information that has been put out recently. Mastering the Maze has been, let me think of how to word this. It's been updated in order to make it interactive and to make it more timely as far as technology and the different electronic opportunities that we have now. Over on the right, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is different types of information that's available to school districts for IEP season and for knowing, you know, how to effectively write IEPs, what to include, how to be legally compliant, how to have IEPs that make a difference. And so if you notice that there's different things listed, you know, the YouTube channel is listed, there's live binders that have information on different topics that schools can access. There's groups in which people can come together to learn things. There's ways for people to earn their professional development credit, and then a link to the Mastering the Maze. Just as one example, we received information over the past couple of years to indicate that there's an uptick in the number of extreme behaviors and in the number of extreme type situations that schools are dealing with. And with there being a nationwide shortage of residential placements, then school districts are now dealing with more extreme situations, and teachers are asked to, handle some more of those situations than they may have had to do in the past. And so as a result, or as a response to that, then we set up managing severe behavior problem training, which includes managing crisis safely, which includes topics like self-defense, how to pick up on, situations that might escalate. And if the situation does escalate, how do you protect yourself? But then also practical solutions to try to avoid the escalation of the behavior issue. So this is just one example. And I noticed that that the picture is over. It's the last word on there. It's managing crisis safely, train the trainer model, to where districts could have their own trainer to be able to train new people that they receive. So not only did we partner with Glenwood to be able to provide the managing crisis safely in school districts that needed it, but we also worked with them to do a train the trainer so that numerous districts around the state could have their own managing crisis safely trainers. So this is another example of something that we worked on heavily last year. We had a contract. The contract last fiscal year was a sizable contract to be able to put in place some professional development, some extensive professional development covering a lot of different topics: literacy, mathematics, transition. There were some virtual parent trainings. Staff spent a large amount of time last year working with PCG to vet the materials and to review what was being developed. And then the information was delivered on a limited basis. We scheduled some in-person trainings. We had some virtual trainings. It was not as widely disseminated as we eventually planned for it to be. And so what happened during that first year was it was a large contract to be able to get the pieces in place, to get the materials, the guides, the PowerPoints developed and ready to go so that we would have the information. There's modules for literacy, there's modules for mathematics. All of those things are currently available. The training is not, it's not been fully implemented as far as the delivery of it. So this past year was mostly spent on the development of the materials and with a limited dissemination of it. We currently have a much smaller contract right now with them to finish up some of the, let me see how to word this, to work on the inclusive practices portions of the particular information we were working on, to also deliver a couple more virtual sessions, and then also to help us plan for the future for how state staff can also work to develop this or to deliver this information and make it available. But currently the toolkit, the modules, all of that stuff is currently available. The playbooks with coaching are currently being implemented and used. The virtual trainings that we did were recorded, and we're making those available for wider dissemination. And then on a limited basis, there were some on-site trainings. So there'll be more information related to the impact of that first development year for, how many sessions were delivered, how many people attended, what's the overall scheme and plan for getting that information out to more and more people. So stand by for more information on that. So shifting to dispute resolution, you heard from the dispute resolution team today. They are sponsoring, or the section is sponsoring, a joint training for families and educators. It's a case law update with Mr. Deus Dedi Merced. A unique a unique thing about this particular training is that Mr. Merced is a neutral. And so that's why we are opting to train parents and educators together, is because he is an attorney. He has worked as, a parent attorney. I think he might have, I don't know if he worked as a board attorney or not, but he's worked as a mediator. He's worked as a hearing officer for due process cases. And so he's done a range of the positions within dispute resolution. And so he understands the plight of the school district. He understands the plight of the families. And so we are partnering with him to be able to offer joint training where educators and parents can be trained together to hear and know, if this is what happened and this was the outcome of the due process case, how did that impact the school district? And then how did it impact the family? And how could we learn from this particular situation? So we are especially excited that we have him available to be able to do this joint training. They went over the updated special education rights for you today. It is family friendly. It is clearer the way it's organized. And an important piece of that is that it's legally compliant. Because as we were reviewing it and making the revisions we made or the changes to the format, we were checking to make sure that everything that's required to be in the special education rights is actually in the special education rights. The dispute resolution team is also working to clear up confusion and to make sure that stakeholders understand the dispute resolution processes and that they're interrelated. Just to give you an example for that, there's times when a parent may file a written state complaint and a due process. If you file both at the same time, then the due process is gonna, the complaint is gonna be set aside or held. The timeline is gonna be held until the due process concludes. And then if part of the due process if part of the written complaint wasn't resolved within the due process, then that's when the complaint will be picked back up. And so we're talking on ways in which helping make sure people understand you don't have to file a written complaint. You don't have to file a due process in order to see if the district will go to mediation with you. Mediation is available without filing something. IEP facilitation is available just to help have a neutral third party in the room to help make sure everybody has a voice during IEP meetings. And so we are currently discussing ways in which we can get misconceptions cleared up and make sure that all of our stakeholders, including our school districts and our family members, understand that the processes are interrelated and that sometimes you use one without the other. You can use multiple things at the same time, such as if you file a due process, then you can have a mediation to help try to come up with an agreement. And so we want to make sure that we have these things in place, we have these things available, but we want to make sure everybody understands how to use them and when to use them. There's the flyer for.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, we're gonna switch interpreters real quick.
Give me just
While
a-
they're switching, Dr. Chambers, there are a couple of questions when you get an opportunity.
Okay.
Okay, so we're ready.
All right. Yes, you can get a copy of the PowerPoint. And so absolutely, we are always looking for other people to partner with. If it becomes a consultation, then that would have to be in response to, if it's a paid consultation, then that would have to be in response to an RFP based on our procurement laws in Alabama. But yes, absolutely, we are always looking for other people to partner with and provide or to gather information from, to get multiple perspectives from. So thank you for that offer. And then I think I addressed everything. So let me know
We
if I
have
did.
one from Graham. That's at the very bottom. He asked, is Public Consulting Group the entity with whom Special Education Services State Department contracts to provide information on improving special education in Alabama?
I'm not sure what the question is, that they were contracted with to do professional development. I know there was like, if they weren't hired to overhaul special ed or anything like that. They were hired to help us with professional development. And so it was a sizable contract last year just for professional development. And I say sizable, but when I looked at the individual line items in the contract, sizable is because there were so many things included in the contract. So once you pay for the development of the materials and then you pay, $10,000 for 2 or 3 people to deliver it virtually, or you pay $15,000 for 1 or 2 people to deliver it in person, then that's where you get into a sizable contract. So they were hired to help we have a contract. They're consulting with us to help provide professional development. But improving special ed in Alabama, yes. And like the plan is for them to help improve special ed in Alabama through the training. If that's what you're asking. So, and let me know, Graham, if I didn't address your question. This is the dispute resolution flyer for the case law update. You should have gotten a copy of this. We can make sure you have a copy of this and share it widely. There's 4 locations and hopefully as many people as possible will be able to access that information. Shifting to the data team. You've seen examples of the data team's work over the past couple of years for however long you've been on the panel, because they have routinely held work groups to help you understand what the indicators are, to help you understand that there's some compliance indicators and there's some results indicators, what those indicators are, what targets are. And so we've worked really hard over the past year or two to make sure you had the information and knowledge you would need to be able to weigh in on how to make a difference on those indicators. The data team also is responsible for information about PowerSchool, which is the student information system and where we house our special ed paperwork. We were excited to announce recently that we were able to hire a PowerSchool coach that's specific to special ed paperwork. Her name is Sherry Winningham, and she is working with districts. She's soliciting phone calls. She's taking, getting emails and messages and doing virtual meetings with districts to help them understand. We're in maybe the 2nd year of implementation with PowerSchool. And so there's been some things that people have struggled with, but it's been stuff that they could learn how to address or deal with through some simple TA. And so we're excited to have Mrs. Winningham available to do that. Also, as part of the data team is the SPDIG grant, which Dr. Green mentioned to you during her presentation. And she highlighted for you that Goal 1 deals with literacy, reading achievement results in a multi-tiered system of support framework for tiered instruction. And so we're excited about that partnership to be able to improve instruction. It's instruction in general ed standards through tiered support, which, the different tiers of instruction, depending on what's appropriate or what the student needs, is, available to all students, not necessarily students with disabilities. But we know that our students are receiving their instruction either in tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, unless they're pulled out for reading instruction for special ed for a substitute program or something like that. And so we're really excited about this goal to be able to work on the instruction that students are receiving to make a difference in literacy. And then also the Goal 2 deals with lifespan transition outcomes from toddlers up to high school youth and young adults. Another project that is across the whole section, but Dr. Green is serving as one of the main points of contact for, is a CEDAR partnership. We had the kickoff meeting this week for CEDAR, As you see, the CEDAR stands for Collaboration for Effective Educator Development, Accountability, and Reform. So this is where we're going to work with other sections in the department. They're going to partner with us with CEDAR to be able to look at things such as teacher shortage, to look at things such as caseload versus workload, to look at things that make a difference for our teachers as they're being prepared, our college students as they're being prepared to become teachers, and then also evidence-based practices and strategies such as the high leverage practices for teachers that are already in service. And so we're real excited about this partnership to be able to bring in some outside ideas, some things that we could consider that we might not have thought of, dealing with high quality instruction for teacher and leader candidates who are in college programs, talking about how to attract, prepare, and sustain teachers and leaders given the needs in our state, discussing and deciding what kind of data systems we'll use to monitor the impact of the efforts. And then also to talk about reform efforts. Like I said, some of the will be convening groups of a small stakeholder group to be able to talk about priorities, and then that'll expand to larger groups of people. Another activity that the data team manages is Special Ed Advisory Panel. And I put this slide in to talk to you about over the past, I don't know how long Dr. Colley's been working with SEAP, but she's worked really hard to make sure that our membership is where it needs to be, with, 50% or more of the membership being parents or consumers, making sure that we have officers in place, providing the logistical support that's needed for Special Ed Advisory Panel. She's done an excellent job with the support of her team to be able to bring Special Ed Advisory Panel into compliance and to support you as a group. Those of you who are parents or consumers, this is a volunteer gig for you. Those of you who are professionals, this might be part of your work time, but recognizing that volunteers or employees of another entity with limited amount of time, we understand that your group needs logistical support. And so I just wanted to make sure I pointed out that that's one of our major activities, is making sure that you have not only the support and the logistics you need, but also the background knowledge and the information you need to be able to serve your role. And as a part of that, I mentioned that I'm doing the 30,000-foot view. And then if you want a deeper dive on something, then that, you can by all means request that. That's done through a request to add stuff to the agenda. And so the chair works with Dr. Colley to finalize the agenda. And so at any time, if there are certain things you want to hear more about that the state's doing, by all means, please just let us know, because the agenda should be and can be driven by your group. All right, so shifting to the instructional support team. The instructional support team spends most of their time dealing with the course of study committees, the standards for essentials courses, the alternate achievement standards for our students who have significant cognitive disabilities. They've also dedicated time to trainings in certain areas that support instruction, such as behavior, instruction, and then high leverage practices. And so all of our teams work across other teams. People from other teams help with the committee work. People with other teams help finalize these documents and help get these documents ready and everything. But the purpose of the instructional support team is to deal with things related to curriculum and things related to instruction. One of their assigned activities right now is the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Needs Focus Group. Miss Tara Jackson has been facilitating that work with a group of stakeholders, which some of you have been a part of, and we're grateful and thankful for your contributions and your participation in that group. Just pointing out that the group, a recommendation, a request came through Special Ed Advisory Panel, came to the State Department through the Special Ed Advisory Panel for us to look at communication plans and services that children who are deaf and hard of hearing receive. And so this is an example of where your work made a difference in getting this particular focus group in place. That group has met a couple of times. They are in the process of finalizing whatever recommendations they're going to make. And so I just wanted to pull together and tie together the pieces for you to see that a couple of years ago, somebody, brought a public comment through Special Ed Advisory Panel to talk about the needs of children who are deaf and hard of hearing, and to ask whether or not we were doing enough to look at what was going on with children who are deaf and or hard of hearing. And so prime example of things working as far as stuff filtering through you, and then us acting on it and assembling a group to be able to look into the concerns, to consider what's being asked. So I see that there is a question about an opportunity for higher ed to be trained in Power School. I've asked that question. I asked that question probably 6 months ago, and I don't recall what the outcome was. I know they were checking on that, and I know Dr. Green serves as the Power School contact and also one of our IHE people, Institutes of Higher Education, and so she can check on that. I know it's needed. I know that it took us a couple of years, numerous years to get it where you had access to sets and chalkable sets. And so I agree about teaching your students. One of the things you can do in the meantime, until you get the program, is to make sure they understand the foundational pieces of how to write compliant goals that make a difference for students. The logic behind the IEP and the compliance of the eligibility reports, and making sure that we've given all the evaluations in order to qualify children for special education. And so that's a big part of it. Recognizing that if you had access to Power School, that would pull it all together. We definitely rely on you to help make sure they know how to do it compliantly. And we will work with you, work to try to get you access to the program itself. But in the meantime, we are relying on you to help make sure that they understand what they're supposed to do, whether that be in Power School or on paper, or, in a computer, not on a computer, just how to write compliant present level goals, services, how to think through and logically put that stuff, capture what the student needs to make a difference, and have programs in place that are written up that actually make a difference. Because I'm one for, what are we getting from that? What's the bang for the buck? I love compliant paperwork, and I love for all the boxes to be checked and have it in the right place and all that. But I also want to make sure that what we're doing actually makes a difference for children.
Dr. Chambers?
Yes.
I met with, our team, some members of our team met with Ed Prep, the Ed Prep section on last Friday. And we asked the question again about IHEs getting access to the program. They are looking into it, asking questions from, higher administration. So the question is being asked. So we are trying to get, IHEs access. But in the meantime, as you stated, we do have master maze, and the forms are in that. So not districts, but IHEs can use those forms.
I know at one time, one of the holdups was that Power School includes real data, children's actual information. And so there was a confidentiality concern about whether or not there was actually a playground in order to play in. And so we will follow up on that again and see. So appreciate all the questions.
And I also shared in the chat, and I'll say it, so members of the public, that on our Special Education Services YouTube channel are the videos that Dr. Chambers referenced earlier that have been produced primarily, I think, by our technical assistance team. They are very well done. They've broken it into pieces or subject matter that make it easy to understand those components that Dr. Chambers was talking about. But for those of you that are professors of pre-professional teachers, those would be a great resource to see because they are current, they're up to date, and they are reliable. So don't forget that those are there.
That concludes my report, and I appreciate everything you do to make Special Ed Advisory Panel what it is. We couldn't do it without you. Wouldn't want to do it without you. So thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to the next part of the agenda, interpreters, would you like to change now, or is now a good time for you to switch?
Sure, we can switch now.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Give me just a second to make that happen.
Sure.
Okay, Graham, we're ready.
Great, thank you. I know that's very important. So next thing on our agenda, unless anybody has any more questions, Delee, thank you for a great presentation. Your information is always really good. I really appreciate it. Next thing on the agenda are the committee reports. And the first one up is the membership committee. Ashley Colley will help us with this report. So I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Colley.
Thank you. Our chair is Lisa Balaz, and we are so appreciative of our teachers who serve on the panel. But as you know, their teacher responsibilities are a priority sometimes. So I'm going to speak on behalf of Lisa for the membership committee. We have 3 members who either have an end of term coming, or we have one resignation that so I just want to share our words of appreciation. Kristen Dial, she's our former McKinney-Vento State Homeless Coordinator here at the State Department. She's currently a federal programs coordinator, and her end of term is at the end of February. And Kristen has served for a long time, so we are very appreciative to you, Kristen. The same for Felicia Carswell. She represents the Alabama Department of Rehabilitation Services, ADRS, for early intervention. And we're just going to do a transition. That is a standing role. So Felicia's role will end, but we will have a new person representing the EI division of ADRS. That will be forthcoming. And then I did receive one resignation this week from a parent, Christy Rubin. So Christy, we are also very appreciative to the time that you have served, and we will, I know the panel will join me in helping us recruit more parents to the panel, because we want to maintain, like Dr. Chambers said, that compliance piece of the members that we are required to have on the panel. So for those 3 members, you will receive a letter of appreciation from the Alabama State Department of Education soon. We also have, besides having needing to replace any parents who roll off of or resign from the panel, we should always be actively recruiting parents of children with disabilities in the state of Alabama, or individuals with disabilities. And we also have a position for a role open for a special education coordinator. And I believe we have someone that's interested in doing that, but I did want to share that. That is not a required member on the panel, but it is a very important member to our panel, is to have a special education coordinator. So please help me with recruitment so that we can maintain that compliance. Graham, I'll go ahead and speak on behalf of bylaws. I didn't know if Karen was with us today, but y'all know the bylaws committee worked hard last summer up through the fall, and we were able to get our bylaws, any revisions that needed to be made, especially Karen worked relentlessly to get those cleaned up and revised and published. And, we all reviewed them and voted to approve those. So those went into effect, I think, late fall, maybe November, December, but they are on our website, the most current Special Education Advisory Panel bylaws. So thank you, Karen and the Bylaws Committee, for getting that done. We still do not have a chair for the Stakeholder and Public Engagement Committee, so I apologize to those committee members. I know you are patiently waiting for some guidance there. That is really, to me, a very important committee for our panel because of the importance of having the stakeholder input, the public engagement. And so if anybody is willing, even if you're on another committee and you would like to move to that committee, you will not be doing it alone. You will be doing it in a collaboration with me. We'll do this together. We'll get it figured out, ensure that everything is running as it should. And then as well as the support of that committee. So please consider that so that we are able to get that committee, doing the work that they need to do to better support and reach our stakeholders and the public. Okay. And then the last one is student achievement and data. And that our chair is Cameron Carden and Alyssa Spivey. And really the only thing that's happened since our last meeting is there was the meeting that were held by our data team for that stakeholder input. And then they, as you know, they presented on that today. So now that we are in a new, I think of this as a new year of the panel, we will begin our work and having our committee meetings again to start working for 2024. If anybody has any questions about the committee, please post those in the chat, or you can email me to ask.
So, thank you, Ashley. This is very, I think our bylaws, we want to see a lot of work done in the committees. I think, I appreciate all the committee chairs, and I hope somebody else, I encourage somebody to step forward to chair the stakeholder and public engagement and get involved. So thank you. The next thing on our agenda is old business. The 2024 annual report, the approved report was published on the Alabama State Department of Education Special Education Services section of the website in November. A copy was sent to all panel members prior to the end of the year in 2023. So hopefully everybody got a copy of that. Does anybody have any comments or questions? I'm not seeing anything in the chat, so thank you all. The next thing on the agenda under old business, proposed 2024 meeting schedule locations. With April, we're still determining that date, and September 19th. I may have a conflict with that. November 14th, Montgomery, Alabama. Please mark these dates on your calendars. And I know Dr. Pauly will be getting in touch with us in the near future, so we'll partner some of those up. Again, this calendar was provided prior to today's meeting, and so basically it's a work document, and it could be changed. These dates could be changed or updated as needed, but anyway, it's a starting point. So,
and that is, he's referencing the document panel that you received that's labeled Alabama Special Education Advisory Panel Annual Planning Calendar 2024. This is the first time I've done something like this, but I do think it will be helpful to have, it helps hold me accountable. I love a schedule. I love a calendar. I like to, that way I don't forget to do anything. But we also are, like he said, it's a working document. So we're always able to add things. Like Dr. Chambers mentioned, we really rely on the panel and the public to provide input of, things that you would like to see on the agenda. I'm able to add those topics of, to consider within some of these sections by month. And there are times that we are able to have, committee meetings or maybe work sessions between our quarterly meetings if we need to address some of these topics. So please, 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 review this. You know, don't feel bad if you're asking for a revision or you want to add something to it. That is exactly what it's for. It is a working document throughout the year. So thank you, and thank you, Graham.
Thank you. Next thing, we have the deaf or hard of hearing stakeholder group, and this is I think Dr. Chambers mentioned that in her report, but it was basically a focus group created based on SEAP suggestions. So, do we have any report from that?
Yes. Yeah, Cameron Carden she's one of the members of that stakeholder group, and she's going to speak on providing us some updates on that. Thank you, Cameron.
Hi, this is Cameron Carden. Thank you for allowing me to provide an update on the Deaf Hard of Hearing Focus Group report. There are several people who also participated in this focus group on the meeting currently, including Stephanie Bear and Vera Hendricks. Specifically, I think that the entire committee was also just to let you know, was really grateful that several organizations and groups were represented, but also there was representation from the deaf community on this focus group, which I think is really important. Both an adult who uses American Sign Language as their primary communication mode, and an adult who uses listening and spoken language as their primary communication mode. A fair amount of the first two meetings, at least, were devoted to the discussion of a communication plan and how Alabama might support the use of a communication plan. 26 states already are using communication plans to support their students who are deaf and hard of hearing. Many of those states actually have the communication plan codified into law so that it's required, but not all of them do. So we went through the current communication plan that was drafted by Alabama Hands and Voices, and discussed some changes and some updates and amendments to that document. And really then beyond that, considered 4 specific questions that we think could be addressed to improve outcomes for students who are deaf and hard of hearing. One of those is how to properly categorize students who are deaf and hard of hearing on eligibility, for the purposes of eligibility. Alabama recognizes the category term of hearing impaired at this time, and it's really important that students who are deaf and hard of hearing be categorized under that category for a variety of reasons, but that often doesn't happen. And so we discussed some ways to improve through professional development, pre-professional development opportunities, to improve our collective understanding of why that's important and how we might go about meeting that goal as a state. We also discussed the possibility of some type of rubric related to the 6 special factors that IDEA provides as special considerations for students who are deaf and hard of hearing. Again, those really are captured in the communication plan. Then finally, how Alabama, or the State Department of Special Education, recognizes or could I don't know, maybe promote might be the right word, or provide as a resources the Optimizing Outcomes document from the National State Directors of Special Education Board, and at the National Association, NASD. Their most recent Optimizing Outcomes for Students Who Are Deaf and Hard of Hearing guidelines book. It was updated in 2018. It's an incredible document that was provided by NASD as a resource, and some research, survey study research indicates that like 75% of special education practitioners in the United States and also in Alabama are not familiar with this document. So how could we get that into the hands of special education coordinators so that that could be a free resource to support optimizing outcomes for these students? The committee submitted some recommendations to, or the work group, excuse me, the focus group, submitted some recommendations from how we as a group, but also the State Department could support achieving some of these goals, as well as the finalized draft of the communication plan.
Can we, so can SEAP members get a copy of your recommendations?
Absolutely. Ashley, is that something that you would like me to forward to you for you to forward to everyone?
Yes, if you don't mind, and it obviously copy Dr. Chambers, she might already have that copy, but because that initial recommendation came through the SEAP, I think it'll be important that we follow up with that recommendation report.
This is Cameron speaking. I do know that Tara, who was just so wonderful to work with, and so appreciated being able to participate in this focus group with her. She sent the recommendation.
Thank you for that report, Cameron. Does anybody have any questions?
I didn't know if you could hear her, Graham.
Comments?
She was sharing, Graham. I don't know if you could hear her. She's still sharing out some information.
I'm sorry, this is Cameron. I just wanted to say that she sent out the recommendations for comment from the work group, and that closed, like comments closed on that February 16th. And so I don't know if it's been forwarded beyond the committee, but I do know that comments have been closed for it, Ashley. So there shouldn't be any additional changes to it.
Yeah, and I
based
can
on
also get that from Tara. So thank you. Thank you so much, Cameron, for sharing. Okay, Graham, we're good.
Ashley, this is
Yeah.
Melissa. It looks like Graham has left on the
Okay.
chat. It may have been an accident, but he's been disconnected.
Okay, I can continue on with the meeting. This is Ashley Colley again. So Dr. Chambers mentioned, but I want to mention again that we do have those regional case law sessions coming up that will be in, I believe, 4 different regions in the state. It will be offered in Hanceville, Troy, Mobile, and Tuscaloosa. Panel members, I sent you the updated flyer, so please share that. We are looking forward to seeing the registrations come in for that and for us to be able to provide that next month. I also want to talk about, for you guys that are veterans, you know that we talked last year about our state education conference, which is called MEGA. It's in Mobile, Alabama every summer in July. This year, it's a little earlier than it typically is. It's going to be July 8th through the 12th in Mobile, Alabama. It is a phenomenal conference. It has just about every topic, every realm, every genre of education that you can imagine. It is clearly about 5 days long, hundreds of sessions, presenters, not just local presenters. We have some that are from the state, some that are, throughout different parts of the United States. So it is a great conference. As a SEAP panel member, we are able to provide, your registration and your reimbursement for travel. I do need to check legislation passed for full-time state employees as well as our part-time state employees to do what's called in-state actual, where you're actually getting penny for penny back. Before I commit to saying that that would be the case for any of you traveling for SEAP, I will check on that to see how that will work. But if you want to go, let me know because I can get you registered You probably want to, if you do want to go, at least start looking at hotel options. Those have, a lot of the ones right there next to the conference are probably already full, just because everyone from the State Department of Education goes, we have to go. But there's plenty of other hotels in the surrounding area, and obviously Mobile, and even across the bay, like in Daphne and Fairhope. So you may want to go ahead and do that. Obviously, when you make your reservation, make sure it's refundable and all of that. And then I will get the details worked out as far as whether you can do in-state actual and how that will work. And I'll get back to you on that. But if you're interested, let me know and I'll send you the information and we can get you registered. Okay. And that's all I have on that, Graham. So we're almost finished. I'll let you wrap things up for us.
Ashley, this is Melissa. I don't think Graham has joined
He
back
didn't come back. Okay.
when it was disconnected.
That's okay. I can keep going. I was a little worried about that because when you couldn't hear Cameron, that something was happening.
Yes. Okay.
I did not receive anything, panel members, I didn't receive anything from you all requesting to share. But if anyone has something they'd like to share, from your stakeholder group, your community, anything like that, just please raise your hand or put it in the chat and we'll give you just a minute.
As you do
that
that,
opportunity.
Ashley, this is Melissa once again. Ms. Smith said she was interested, I'm assuming, in the mega conference information.
Okay, if you'll just email me, let me know, and that way I'll hold me accountable if I see it in my email writing. So, but thank you. I would love for you to go. We have a great time. Okay, I do not see any comments or any raised hands unless Melissa, you see any, let me know.
I do
So I don't
not.
see anything else. Any additional questions or comments from the panel? Oh, thank you, Ashley. And I will email that out. I think because Dr. Chambers needed to cover all of those other things today, that was just not something that she got to, but I will make sure to send that link out for you, Ashley. Thank you for sharing that. The only, before we adjourn, our next meeting is in April. I know that in the past year, we talked about trying to keep the meetings in Birmingham and Montgomery just because it was a nice central location for everyone to get to. And we did talk about doing different platforms. Today's meeting has probably been one of my favorite SEAP meetings that we've done. I've loved this platform. I've loved the way that it's flowed and all the information shared. But our next meeting is scheduled for Tuscaloosa because that is a request we received. Would we consider hosting a meeting in Tuscaloosa? And absolutely we will. And that meeting will be face to face. It's important that I have Graham with us when we're doing these meetings, and he does have a conflict that came up. So I'm working on setting that new date. It's either going to be April 23rd or 25th, so Tuesday or Thursday that week. That's going to depend on me being able to find a venue where we can host that meeting since we're going to do it face to face. As soon as I have that, I will let you know. But if you want to go ahead and pencil the 23rd or 25th of April just to hold those, and I will try to get that as quickly as possible. And Jessica, yes. There will be a virtual option like we've done in the previous meetings, because I know that's so important, especially for someone like you that's a teacher and some of our working professionals to balance that. So we will do that, and I will have that out to you. And it sounded like Graham had a conflict with the November meeting, and that happens when we try to tentatively set these in advance as our schedules begin to fill for the year. So we'll get that date figured out sooner than later. But if that is all everybody has today, that is all I have. This, like I said, has been one of my favorite meetings. I have enjoyed it. Interpreters, we are so appreciative to the services that you provided today. It was my first time being able to host a meeting with you, and I've really enjoyed that. So we are adjourned. It is 11:20 a.m. Thank you, everybody.